Okay, we're going to work together on the next few slides to see if you can correctly identify if something is a simile or a metaphor used in the sentences. We'll go over them, see what you think, and then I'll give you the answers. Think back to the rules that we talked about in the last video, and let's see how you go. The first one. The bus wasn't air-conditioned, and the hot, heavy air was almost as stifling as the handcuffs. Page 6 in holes. Is it a simile or is it a metaphor? What do you think? What did you choose? Well, the answer was it's a simile. The bus wasn't air-conditioned, and it was the hot, heavy air was almost as stifling as the handcuffs. So the word there is the as. The simile clearly illustrates Stanley's uncomfortable situation and his lack of energy. Okay, let's try the next one. He's a mole, Zigzag said. I think he eats dirt. It's page 95 of Holes. Is that a simile or is it a metaphor? What do you think? If you answered metaphor, you'd be correct because it's no as. It is saying definitely he is a mole. I think he eats dirt. So it is saying he's directly like this little blind creature that spends its life digging. All right, the next one, boys. 110 years ago, Green Lake was the largest lake in Texas. It was full of clear, cool water, and it sparkled like a giant emerald in the sun. Page 101 in Holes. Did the author use a simile or a metaphor? What do you think? If you answered simile, you would be right. As you see there, it was full of clear, cool water and it sparkled like a giant emerald. So the simile conveys the former beauty of a now dried up dead lake. It compared the lake to a giant emerald, clearly indicating that the image of a pristine environment with nothing to mar its natural beauty. Emeralds also symbolize preciousness and wealth, and further emphasizing the former beauty of the place and how precious it was. All right, let's try our next one. When they reached the flat ground, Stanley looked up to see the sun, a fiery ball balancing on the top of Big Thumb. God was twirling a basketball. So what do you think that is, boys? That was page 166 in Holes. It is a metaphor. All right? It is calling the sun a fiery ball balancing on top of Big Thumb. Okay? So that gives you a definite feel for what or how he felt about the sun. Next one. 5. Stanley smiled. I'm a camel, he said. Page 193 in Holes. Was the author using a simile or a metaphor? What do you think? Answer is a metaphor. Clearly, it's not saying he is like a camel. He was saying he was a camel, meaning that he could go for a long time without drink, that he could store up water, that he could cope with being thirsty. And the next one, number 6. His mouth was as dry and as parched as the lake. Page 107 in Holes. Louis Sachar used this, very evocative of an image. Is it a simile? Is it a metaphor? Okay, it's a simile. The use of as. His mouth was as dry and as parched as the lake. Clearly conveys Stanley's fear and his thirst, as well as the hardships that the younger offenders faced in the camp. And it also echoes the imagery of the lake and the dryness and the barrenness of the landscape. Next one. He dug the hole into his memory. What do you think? Simile or metaphor? Okay, it is a metaphor. It's a dramatic irony, I guess you could say. He knows that the team is unlikely to find anything in a hole. We know the tube was actually found in a totally different location. So it is a metaphor. No, as he's using quite striking figurative language to describe how he memorizes where the real location is. Not done literally, but a dramatic use of language. Number 8. It was said that Green Lake was heaven on earth and that Miss Catherine spiced peaches were the food for the angels. Okay, what is this? Is this a simile or is it a metaphor? Okay, it is a metaphor. It was heaven on earth and the spiced peaches were food for the angels. It almost has religious sort of overtones. In contrast between the delicious dry, spiced peaches and the sorts of meals that the boys were having too. So certainly conjures up images and emotion in the reader. Number 9. Zero's face looked like a jack-o'-lantern that had been left out too many days past Halloween. Very American sort of language. Is it a simile or is it a metaphor? What do you think? It is a simile. It uses the word like a jack-o'-lantern. So it describes the first time Stanley's seeing Zero smile. Rather a good positive action that's portrayed in a quite grotesque sort of way. You tend to think of jack-o'-lanterns as being rather evil or wicked or certainly grotesque. So not meant to be comparing it to a happy, relaxed sort of smile. And then the next one, Myra's head was as empty as a flower pot. This is the last one, boys. Is this a simile or is it a metaphor? What do you think? It's a simile. Use of the word as is the clue. The simile manages to characterize Myra as being quite superficial and simple sort of character in one very effective stroke. There are negative connotations about this description. She's naive, she's not very intelligent, she's a bit foolish. A flower pot also suggests probably femininity, her girlish qualities. There's also suggestion of beauty, as flowers embody beauty of nature. But again, it's connotations about being empty is really rather biting. It's really rather a put down rather than a positive way of describing beauty. Okay, boys, that is all the ones that I'm done with you. You're going to go ahead now and you're going to write down some answers into your OneNote folder. You've got a list of similes or metaphors and you're going to answer questions working out which one is which. So that's your next task.